Okay, so I'm here with my good friend and the director of operations here at Byrne Real Estate Group, Lesley Estes. You and I were acquainted for the first time, I think, about 5.5 years ago.
Yep, that's correct.
And let's just walk through the whole story. You're gonna want to hear this because you're gonna hear a story about somebody who persevered and has a real passion for helping people and a real passion for overcoming obstacles. That's probably the best way I can say it. And just a genuine, true, good person and a leader. We're very fortunate to be in business with you.
Same.
Yeah. Hey, thanks. So I'll try not to interrupt you again, but tell us your story. Who are you? Where are you from? What your journey through real estate's been so far?
Yeah. So I grew up in a really small town in Skidmore, Texas, down south, and graduated high school, came to Austin, and started working in my first sales job for Kinko's.
I still call it Kinko's.
And yes, and now FedEx office. And I had an amazing sales trainer there who made me really passionate about caring about people versus just transactional sales. And so we were here, I was married during that time, and then we were here for a couple of years, ended up having to go back home because his mom got sick. And while we decided to have kids, and so we had kids, small town life for about 10 years, and always wanted to make our way back to Austin. And so we were selling our house in Beeville, which is the small town outside of Skidmore, or the bigger town outside of Skidmore. And we had a terrible experience. So
we've heard that story a few times.
A couple of times since then. So we had a terrible experience with that. I have, since I graduated from high school, I've had multiple jobs at a time. And so it was a hustle. My whole life was just a hustle. And so I was watching this lady do this real estate transaction. And I was like, if this is all she has to do, I'm in. So I went and got my license, and little did I know, they teach you nothing about how to actually do your job. And so whenever I passed my test, I was like, well, the next day I literally was like, what am I supposed to do? So I was all over YouTube trying to figure out what I do and make calls. That's what everybody, and I was like, who am I calling? I don't know who to call. I have no sphere here. We're back in Austin. I don't understand what I'm supposed to be doing. And so for 2 years, I spent almost the exact same amount of money buying leads as the money that I made from them. So I was breaking even. If I was breaking even, I don't know. There was probably a lot of don't pay attention to all the expenses. I got really frustrated, and I have been in outside sales my entire adult life. I've always been super independent and reliant on me. My front seat was my desk forever. Everyone in my family knew they weren't allowed to sit in my front seat because all my stuff was there. So I was like, I can do this, and then I couldn't do it. I couldn't make it work. So super frustrated. I decided that I was going to flip a house. Actually, I decided I was going to create a whole company, and I did. I don't think you probably know this about me. And so I created this company to help people that were going into foreclosure or whatever, and I was going to wholesale them and do all of this stuff. And so I found a house in our hometown, which is 2.5 hours away. So I decided I'm going to flip. This is the amount of money that I had, right? I'm going to make it work. So I got a hard money loan, and then I financed the construction part of it, and decided I was going to flip a house in a town that there's no Home Depot.
Yeah.
There's no handyman. There's no anything. So every contractor that I hired, I paid them and they left, and I never saw them again. So I spent a ton of time down there, away from my family, trying to get this just done at that point, and finally finished it and sold it, and I owed $40,000 by the time it was over. So it was a rough process, and had like some PTSD around real estate. I took a couple of months, and then I was like, you know what? I'm going to give this one more go. Just one more time. But what I've always done, and what occurred to me in this process, was that everything I've ever done, I've done from the bottom, and learned the whole process. That's how I've been successful. And so I was on Indeed searching for an opportunity, and you had an inside sales job available. So I've been in outside sales my whole life. The scariest thing on the planet to me was calling people all day long.
Yeah. Everybody.
Yeah. Right?
Takes a special DNA for that.
Yes. To want to do that all of the time. So I was like, you know what? I'm just like, biggest fear.
Yeah.
What, like, how bad could it be?
All of these. Yeah. Can I tell a story about that interview?
Yes.
Yeah. So
which one? Because you interviewed me 5 times.
Yeah. We do that. And you came in with like a business plan. I remember, like, Inspired. You had all these ways to make money on there, and it was bound. Kinko's must have been your Kinko's connection. It was bound, and I thought to myself, at least this person's put some thought into it, because a lot of the interviews that we have, people just walk in like, I want to make money, and they, sometimes they wear pajamas.
That's true.
Yeah.
That has happened.
Not recently, but at the height of things. Anyways, so you came in. I remember you came in, and you and I had to work really close together.
Yeah, like just a little bit farther away than this. Yeah.
And we had I don't, if you know anything about us, we changed configurations all the time, rearranged the furniture, if you will.
Oh, constantly.
Yeah. So we had like that desk built, and you sat there, and I remember thinking multiple times, I'm like, I know she's here, and she's setting appointments. I was going on crazy appointments.
Sorry about that.
But that was like part of the thing. It's like you had to learn how to talk to people and make the calls, and then you had to learn how to set appointments, and then the next phase was learn how to set good appointments. Right. And then went from good appointments to closings, and we had a couple agents, or at least one other agent, working with us at the time, and so you were working with her on buyers and me on sellers.
That's right.
And so how many months into it was it before you had a good system going there, and then the buyer transition happened?
It was probably between 4 and 6 months whenever I think I got my bearings around what I was doing. And then at the 8-month mark, there were too many appointments. And I think our buyer's agent was going to go on vacation, or maybe she was on vacation. And you said, do you want to do this?
Yeah, I remember we were walking out of a model home.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right when COVID was coming around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yes. Mm-hmm. You gave it back to me and said, here, you can have it back. I didn't brush my teeth this morning. I was like, no. Okay. Anyway. Yeah. So I had made this appointment. These people were very ready to go. And so I went out, I showed them the house, and then you came back out with me, or maybe you came at the end of the appointment or something, and said, do you want to do this? And I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is what I was made for.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm ready. And so things took off really fast.
It went blazing fast because the market, it stalled out, right? And I remember we were all like, all right, well, we'll figure something out. Let's just see what happens. And then that was right when our Google reviews, we started paying attention to that, right? And that started going up. And then the phone just started ringing. Like crazy. So yes. How did you navigate all that? So we went from appointment setter to buyer agent to then what?
Yep. So I was buyer agenting, and then it was just me and you. So you were doing listings, I was doing buyers. And I don't know how long it was that we went like that. It doesn't seem like it was very long before I was too busy. Yeah. And I maybe a year. Maybe less than that.
I think it was less than a year, because it was like, I remember it was like that December or January, you hired somebody to help you.
Yep.
Or we hired like a showing assistant, and then whatever happened there. And then it was then we had 4 agents.
Yep.
And that went on for a couple of years.
It sure did. So we, so it was me and you, and then I needed help. And so we hired a showing assistant to help me, which was a huge relief. And then I think 2 more agents came on, and then a third, and then a fourth. And then before I knew it, there was not even time. It was very rare that I even got to go out and show houses anymore. Yeah. And at that point, we had expanded into the next room, right? Mm-hmm. We had the third office going. And I basically sat in a glass bowl with a table, and I could see all of the other agents. So we were talking to each other all day long, but they were going out and showing. I basically was walking around, pacing around a table all day long, just doing appointments and negotiating deals.
Yeah, you were quarterbacking the agents. Mm-hmm. So you started basically at the bottom. You started in the lead gen side, then setting appointments, successful appointments. You filled the calendar, and you basically were starting to set appointments for yourself. And then COVID happened, and that triggered a lot, everything, right?
Yeah.
COVID and trigger, those 2 words probably shouldn't go together. Then you had a group of agents, and you were doing buyer agents, and then you took on listings, right? So, I mean, you went through just like a pretty linear progression of a typical real estate agent's life, but it was at high end, like it was intense.
Can I just say something? I'm paying attention to you a little bit, but there was a really pivotal conversation that we had in the middle of all of this, where we sat down and we were doing a like Keller Williams exercise about my future. And you were asking questions around what I want. And so I was giving him very like topical answers, just very, very shallow answers. And I think the one thing that I appreciate about Clay is that he doesn't do shallow answers. And so you kept digging and digging and digging. What is it really? What is it really? What is it really? Until we got to a place where you were crying.
You make fun of me every time.
Yeah, but we got to a place where like you really dug out of me what I think I always wanted somebody to dig out of me, like to be able to see like you want more than what you're saying.
Yeah.
And this space to be able to. Yeah, they were great. It was great. Yeah, just the space to be able to verbalize what was in my heart and what wanted to do with my life.
What did you say? Do you remember what you said?
I remember that I wanted a lot of agents, like as many as could fit in the building that we were in at the time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
then you got them.
And so you don't always actually want what you think you do.
But I think what you discovered, it felt like to me, was like we had an alignment in like we both wanted to push ourselves into more leadership roles, and we wanted to be able to help people achieve their goals.
Right.
And sometimes it's like discover that they have goals and what they are too, right? And so that's what we started doing. And
that's right.
we've learned a lot in the last couple of years. So let's fast forward. We're going to skip over. There was a hard period in there because we recruited a whole bunch of agents and we broke our system.
We broke everything.
And it wasn't just systems. Like some people, the relationship changed a little bit. So it wasn't all good. Wasn't all bad, but it wasn't all good either.
Yeah.
But we got through that. We learned a lot, didn't we? What's one of the things that you did learn from like that era?
That period?
Lasts about 18 months.
I think that the biggest lesson that I learned is that I can handle a lot. I can tolerate a lot, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I should.
Yeah.
That I think that was my biggest lesson in that.
Yeah, that was a good one. I think, mine was that also, and then I think there was a piece of that was knowing kind of where you are and what you have system-wise and like from an asset-wise and a brand-wise and reputation, and don't really leave it up to chance. Like be smart a little bit about, be maybe more thoughtful about some of the decisions that you make. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that you also have to go for it too. I mean, there's always this like a balance.
And you do.
Scales of justice.
Yeah.
So anyways, so now here we are. You're the director of operations. We have, I would consider it a pretty robust team that's growing.
We have a great team.
We have a great team. And let me ask you this then. What makes you say they're great? Why do we have a great team? What do you love about it?
I think there's a lot of commonality in what everybody on this team wants. Foundationally, we're servants at heart.
Yeah.
We want to see each other succeed. We want to see this team succeed together. We're excited to come to work. We like each other. That's
big.
That's big. Yeah, we learned
Not always
that
been
in
the
the
case.
era.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big deal. And so it's a pleasure to get to come here every day. We work our butts off, but everybody equally puts in that same kind of effort, right? And so you can't let things go without letting other people down, right? So, and that's agents included.
Yeah.
It's, you know, our ops team and agent, everybody.
Yeah. The agents are amazing. The ops team is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was the thing that we took us the longest, I think, to figure out and put together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about your kids. Tell us about your kids. You are a mom.
I am a mom.
Yeah.
I am. I have 3 kids. I never saw myself as being a mom. And then like, once you get them, you're just like, man, this is the coolest thing ever. Yep. So I have 3 kids. My youngest is 15. He'll be 16 this year. I have a 17-year-old and I have a 31-year-old. So I had Presley, who's the 17-year-old, and got pregnant with Izzy, and then we adopted a teenager in the middle. So in 2 years, we had 3 kids. So it was real boom, boom,
Well, there's
boom.
a pattern. You go from just like not much, and then boom, 2 years
Nothing.
later,
That's
everything's
right.
totally different.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, so they have been a game changer.
Yeah.
And now I'm in my last couple of years with them. So I was totally made to be a teenage mom. Not a teenage mom. I was totally made to be a teenager's mom.
A mom with teenagers.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
What makes you say that?
They're so fun at this age. I have created little comedians. They're hilarious. They're smart. You can have intellectual conversations with them. They have opinions, which I don't always care for, but they're fantastic.
They bring you a lot of joy.
They bring me a lot of joy.
Good.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm not sure who all is going to see this video, so it could be a broad mix.
Okay.
But we're going to give access to it to everybody.
Okay.
What would be some?
I'm scared about this next question that you're going to ask
Well,
with that disclaimer.
You've been through your income obviously has gone from not much to a whole lot to maybe not that much to a whole lot, like back and forth, and getting a bigger stake in things as you've gone
Sure.
on, as you've improved, you've developed. People are drawn to you. You're a natural leader. You're smart. You know how to navigate conversations. Win-win obviously is a principle of yours.
Mm-hmm.
What's it like, or like, maybe here's a good question. Like, when did you know that you had this in you? Because you're from bounced, right? I mean, it's not like you were born into Wharton Business School and like life was paved all the way for you, right?
Right, it wasn't at all. So I think I've told you before that like I didn't watch cartoons. I don't like cartoons. I never cared for for toys or things like that. I did make all my friends play Office with me. So I think from like a very young age I had an office, and I had papers, and I had like files, and that was
Okay. So you've always just been the boss.
I've always been the boss.
That's what this is about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh man.
That's great.
Okay.
That's great. So you just kind of always knew you'd be a boss. I love that. All right. Well, that's Lesley Estes, Director of Operations, Sales Manager, Listing Agent, Buyer Agent, Inside Sales Agent, Planner, Executor of Plans. And just a wonderful person.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Back at you, buddy.
Thanks, buddy.